Dallas taxpayers, hold onto your wallets. News 8 investigation finds hundreds of thousands of dollars that should have gone into Dallas schools has gone missing. Investigator Charlotte Huffman has this troubling report.
More than $400,000. That's how much money DISD can't seem to find. The district spent it on more than 100 new portable air conditioning units for schools. They look like these, but they've gone missing. DISD's Heating and Cooling Division purchased them about 2 years ago. So where are they now? The district can't tell you, and neither can we. Let's do the math. 123 units at $3,500 a pop equals a grand total of $430,500. That's almost $500,000 taxpayer dollars down the drain.
That's a problem.
Board trustee Joyce Foreman voiced her frustration with DISD administration during a meeting last month.
And 123 of them are missing, and we can't determine where they are.
I'm a firm believer that the taxpayers trust us and entrust us with their tax dollars to spend them the best possibly way that we can. And when any dollars that we misspend, to me, that's dollars taken out of the classrooms that could educate our kids. And so that's a problem for me.
To date, the district still has not referred the potential theft of hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of taxpayer-funded equipment to police. When WFAA pressed district officials on why, President of the Board of Trustees Dan Mitchke vowed to get to the bottom of this. In an email, he tells us, the administration is currently conducting an audit of the spot coolers. Once the audit is complete, the board and internal audit will analyze the findings and make a determination on next steps. So how did the district even know that the units were missing to begin with? Because WFAA launched an investigation last year into allegations that hundreds of thousands of dollars were being misspent by DISD's Heating and Cooling Division. During that investigation, we discovered the district overpaid for the units. That prompted DISD to conduct their own investigation. The results, detailed in this report and obtained by WFAA, were worse than first thought. The district is unable to locate 123 AC units.
I'm concerned about that because that leads to, if it's happening in this particular situation, is it happening anywhere else?
And that was Charlotte Huffman reporting. This afternoon, a DISD spokeswoman said the district believes it has found some of the coolers, but couldn't provide any details on how many or where they were found. She said the district is checking serial numbers for verification. They hope to have an update for us late next week. As of now, the spot coolers are still classified as missing.